To Fourth Coach Conversations, a series brought to you by D1Baseball.com. I am your host, Michael Patrick Rooney. Happy Sunday, everybody. Let's say thanks to our presenting sponsor, that is Netting Professionals. Netting Pros specializes in the design, fabrication, and installation of custom netting for college baseball programs all around the country. Next time your field or facility needs something new, make sure to check out Netting Professionals. The guys at Netting Pros have been with us. This is episode 16, fellas. These guys have been the sponsors since day one. I'll say it this way. It's a great company with great people and a great product. And most importantly, they are all in on college baseball. So I want to encourage everyone to reciprocate that, support the guys at Netting Pros. You will not regret it. They are fantastic in every way. So, gentlemen, good to see you. I am fired up. I told you guys before we started, I'm digging into your backgrounds today. When I was supposed to be doing my day job stuff, prep, but instead I'm on your guys' Twitter feeds, and we've got some great stories to tell tonight. I'm really fired up. Let me intro the show for anyone that's not listened before. What we're doing here tonight in college baseball, we have this wonky thing where the fourth member of a coaching staff, so think about head coach, two paid coaches, and then we have the volunteer coach. These are on the field guys instructing Division I baseball athletes, but they are volunteers. They cannot be paid by the school. They can't get benefits from the school. They can't go off campus and recruit, which is crazy. That really can be problematic as far as networking goes. They can't even be paid. The school can't even pay these guys to go to coaching conventions to get better at their craft. So it's a really important position in our sport. But these guys have to, clearly have to make huge sacrifices to be part of this. So, we thought this series would be a great way to get these guys some publicity and hey, they're the up and comers in our profession. This is the next wave of the bright young coaches in our sport. And for me, selfishly, I have loved getting to know everyone. This has been. I'm so glad we decided to do this. So, gentlemen, let's jump right in. This will go super fast. First thing I want you to do, and Coach Bell, I'm going to start with you. Introduce yourself, give us your name, and bullet point your resume, where you grew up, where you played, where you've coached. You don't have to get into crazy detail, but yeah, just take us around your resume, where you've been, where you played, where you're from. Coach Bell, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Mike, for having me on tonight. Really appreciate the opportunity. My name is David Bellamy. I'm the volunteer assistant at Washington State University. I grew up in Eugene, Oregon, and attended a small Division II school in Lacey, Washington, St. Martin's University for my freshman year, and then decided to transfer back home to Lane Community College in the NWAC in Eugene. And then it was there that I was recruited by New Mexico State and head coach Brian Green, and that's where I finished my career for my junior and senior seasons. And that was the best decision of my life. I didn't know anything about Las Cruces, New Mexico until I got down there and on day one, and really fortunate and glad that I made that decision. I always knew I wanted to get into coaching, and was fortunate that Coach Green allowed me to join the staff in 2019 as a graduate assistant. And then when he got the job the next year at Washington State here in Pullman, he brought the whole staff with him, and that's really special to me. He's a guy that preaches loyalty and trust and family, and he backed that up by bringing the whole staff with him from New Mexico State to Washington State. So always grateful for that opportunity. And I finished my master's here in Pullman in 2020, the COVID season, and then was the director of player development last year. And then this will be my first year in the volunteer assistant role, working with catchers and then the hitters as well, alongside Coach Green. And I also spent 3 years in the Northwoods League for the St. Cloud Rocks, the first 2 years as an assistant, and then this past summer as the field manager. And that was an incredible experience at the time. At 25 years old, building a roster and leading a team throughout a long summer, I learned so many valuable lessons, and it was a great time, and very fortunate to be where I am.
Love it. All right, Coach Bell, a couple follow-up questions here. Let me start with this one. Were you teammates with Nick Gonzalez? Nick Gonzalez, first-round pick of the Pittsburgh Pirates, star player at New Mexico State. You were teammates with him, or you just missed him?
I was teammates with him and roommates with him, and then I coached him for the year.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah,
All right, so here's my question for you on Nick Gonzalez. What is the recruiting lesson for Nick Gonzalez? And it's funny, I saw him play as a high school player. Ironically, his aunt was one of my customers in my day job, and so she mentioned her little nephew Nicky, and so I went and saw him play. And I guess I can see why people whiffed on him, but I mean, this dude was a like no doubter first round pick. So give me your take. What's the recruiting lesson on Nick Gonzalez?
I think the recruiting lesson is trust your eyes, don't trust the rankings. I think he was the 80th best player in Arizona according to the rankings, and trust your eyes and recruit good hands and good bat speed. I mean, his bat speed was electric, and it's some of the quickest hands I've ever seen. So yeah, trust your eyes and recruit bat speed.
Yeah, and I think you got to be careful with profile too, right? Because he was kind of like this positionless, trying to catch, sort of. Could he play second? Or yeah, it's that's a good point. All right, let me ask you about the St. Cloud Rocks. So first of all, they have like it sounds like a great program. They have a really cool hashtag. What's it called? Fun on the Rocks or something like that?
Rock solid fun.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
That's right. Rock solid fun. Thank you for that. So it looked like Riley Cornelio, who, pretty famous player, TCU, but it hasn't clicked for him at TCU yet. It looks like he really had a breakthrough with you guys in the summer. Tell me about coaching Riley.
Man, Riley showed up and you could tell he had all the tools and he just hadn't put it together yet. And he's still working on that craft, but he's an electric arm, and he didn't get a ton of opportunity at TCU early on. But they certainly have him in their plans for the future, I would assume. I mean, he came in, he was up to 97, 98. And that's the thing I love about summer ball is it can give a lot of guys confidence. A lot of guys are going there that haven't thrown many innings, especially pitchers on the mound. You're getting guys that haven't thrown a lot of innings. So it just gives him an opportunity to go out there and work on his craft and know that he's going to get another start no matter what. It's just a long summer. So he got better as the summer went along and hopefully set him up for a big spring this year.
Perfect. All right, last one, and then we'll keep moving. So I feel like Washington State is this program that's really on the rise big time. Obviously, you guys had a really good year last year, and just the trajectory of the program, new facility, the BTO looks amazing. So, I think Coach Green is fairly famous. People in college baseball know him. If you could boil it down to a word or a sentence, that's what I'm looking for. But your other two teammates on that coaching staff that I think came with you from New Mexico State, tell me about those two guys.
Yeah, Coach Clags. I mean, he's done a great job with the pitchers. He pitched for the Yankees and the Pirates, and everyone knows that New Mexico State's a pitcher-friendly ballpark. Not not really. He does a
It'd be
great
like
job.
getting your ears
Yeah.
beaten in. Yeah.
Yeah. He did a great job there, and he does a great job here. And then Terry Davis, our recruiting coordinator, he's one of the best in the country, and he's always on the phone. He's always grinding, and he's at every event, and he's just a tremendous worker. And we take pride in the fact that we all came here together and we're a family. And I think that's what leads into the culture of the whole team. They know that their coaching staff is close and bonded together, and that really sets the tone for the locker room.
Oh, love it. Really good. Cool. Kyle, go ahead.
Okay, thanks for having me on. Name's Kyle Wright. I am the infield coordinator at George Mason University. I graduated from William & Mary back in 2019. Right after I graduated from William & Mary, thought I was going to start coaching college baseball, but at the time I had been dating my now wife 5 years long distance, so instead decided to move back up to Northern Virginia and get a typical day job. So I was working medical device sales for orthopedics. This job had like a unique work schedule. So I was normally in the OR around 7 a.m. and out by like 2 or 3 p.m., which gave me a lot of free time. And I, of course, found myself doing a lot of baseball in the afternoon and nights, coaching a travel baseball team showcase organization called Stars, 15 and 16-year age group, and then coaching at a private school up here, Bishop O'Connell, doing the infield there as well. Along that process, I saw a lot of high school and youth kids and saw a lack of kind of infield defensive ability. So I created something called the Infield Academy, just running camps, team training, and individual sessions, all based out of Northern Virginia. Kind of made a name for myself in this area. And because of that, George Mason this past summer asked me to come on board and be in charge of the infield. So this fall was my time, and I'm looking forward to the spring.
Awesome. Hey, Kyle, on with the Infield Academy that you own and run, are you able to kind of blend those things with what you're doing with the Mason camps, or how do you that would feel like a perfect fit? Is that working out okay?
Yeah, we're still kind of working out the kinks of all of it, just because I kind of came on board this fall. I think we'll start to see a little bit more of that kind of progressing into the summer, and then just with NCAA compliance and all of that, I do a lot more of the youth sessions with the Infield Academy now. I kind of focus 13U and under. So I still kind of run a lot of the programs, but I have a few high school coaches and other coaches in the area that actually run some of the infield academy stuff for the high school based players. But yeah, so we're still trying to kind of work out the kinks of all that.
Awesome. All right. So I told you I was going to ask you about this. So your redshirt freshman season at William & Mary, if I have it right, 2016, you guys go on one of those runs that make us all love college baseball. Like you guys are in the CAA, you lose the first game of the conference tournament. And as I didn't even go back and look, but my assumption is you would not have been an at-large bid. You're either winning that tournament or you're going home. And you lose game one and then just rip through the rest of the tournament, win 4 straight. And then you guys go to the Charlottesville regional that ECU ends up winning. But you guys are the ones that ended Virginia's season the year after they won the national championship. So I like just that 2-week stretch right there. If there's 1 or 2 or 3 memories that, moments in that run that really stand out for you.
Yeah, no, that was definitely the most fun baseball I've ever played in my life. And I think a lot of people in the team would say the same. And I think it was that we didn't have that many expectations just because we weren't going to be an at-large bid. So I think we won 8 straight elimination games after that first loss in the CAA tournament. That was also the CAA tournament we won after being down 8 runs in the 9th inning to UNCW. So we scored 8 in the 9th to tie it. There was a rain delay. A hurricane came through Charleston. If we were the 2 seed, they were the 1 seed. So we thought if we didn't get the game in, they were going to get an automatic bid to the regional just because they were the 1 seed. So we ended up getting the game in. Somehow someone was looking down and the forecast went like far east into the ocean or something. We ended up playing the game, winning, and then going to that UVA regional was an absolute blast. People also lose sight that we beat I want to say Bryant that year had 42 wins. So I want to say we beat them first and then UVA. So we always play UVA pretty well. Anybody that goes to William & Mary in this area grows up wanting to go to UVA, So we normally play them pretty competitively midweek, and it was a blast.
So in that, when you guys knocked off UVA, if I looked at the box score right, you had a huge double. Maybe like that was the first scoring that you kind of broke the seal on the game. Do you remember who that was off of?
It was off of Daniel Lynch, and huge double. I think it squeaked its way down the third baseline, but I think
in my mind it was a missile off the wall. That's that's how I saw it.
No, it was a nice ground ball. I might have even hit the third base bag for all I know. But yeah, that was fun. It was definitely a good moment. But yeah, it was off of Daniel Lynch, who I actually faced in a state semifinals a year or 2 before that. He was a Virginia high school Richmond kind of guy, and he shoved it against us and ended my high school career. So.
Oh man, well you got him back. You ended his college career, or I guess that wasn't his last year.
Yeah,
Is he in the big leagues or almost to the big leagues right now?
I want to say he's in the big leagues with some organization, but I may be misspeaking. But
yeah, I think he's one of the the Royals have this kind of cadre of college arms, and I think he's one of them. I feel like he's really made a leap in professional baseball. So. Oh man, that's awesome. Hey, your coach at William & Mary is now is that Coach Murphy? Is that right?
Yeah, Coach Murphy has moved, and Coach McCray. Correct, and Coach McCray is now at William & Mary from VCU.
Got it. That's right. Awesome. Yeah. Very cool. Robbie, go ahead.
I'm Robbie. Mike, I just want to say thank you for having me on. I'm Robbie Spagnola. I'm from a small town upstate New York outside of Albany. I started my playing career. I went to Hudson Valley Community College, Division III junior college. I'll be the first to tell you it wasn't very good. So after my first year, I hit 100, and I knew baseball was going to be something that was a part of my life. And I could have played some small Division III schools, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to go be a student manager at Kentucky. And I visited a couple of schools. I kind of had my own recruiting process. I was talking to Kentucky, NC State, and Wake Forest. So I had a little different recruiting process, but for me, that was pretty cool for me to have that kind of same experience as I was still playing. After that at Kentucky, like I said, I was a student manager, and I went in there my first year, and I was just an equipment manager. I was kind of setting up practice, was doing the laundry, just kind of all the behind the scenes work that no one really honestly likes to talk about.
Sure.
And so that summer, I after my first year, I kind of went to Coach Coggin, Coach Minge, and I said, hey, like, Coach, I think there's more that I can bring to the table than just your typical manager duties. And my second year, I ended up doing a lot of analytical work. I did a lot with TrackMan, Rapsodo, kind of all of that, all the technological stuff that they didn't really care to do. They just wanted to put it off to someone so they could get focused on getting their recruit, getting their whatever it was.
Sure.
I was lucky enough. They had me write a scouting report we played Tennessee Tech in the midweek before a weekend. We went to Vanderbilt, and me and another manager, we got to write that scouting report and present it to our team pregame. So that was a pretty cool experience for me. These past 3 summers, I spent coaching in the Perfect Game Collegiate Baseball League with the Amsterdam Mohawks, and we talked earlier. My uncle owns the team, and he's really taken care of me when it comes to that. And he's, like I said, this past 3 summers, my first summer was just a kind of getting my feet wet into the coaching world. In the past 2 summers, they've been outstanding. And now I actually spent this past fall at Manhattan College in Riverdale, New York, in the MAC, and I just recently accepted this job here at Marshall this Christmas Eve, I think it was, the day before Christmas Eve. So it's been a busy few weeks here.
That's awesome. Really cool. Hey, let me ask you this, Robbie. So I love your background, like you're like hey, I got this dream, I want to coach, and I'm going to do anything to make it happen. Just, the fact that you picked Kentucky and that whole deal is amazing. Where did that dream start? Like what got you down this path of, hey, like I want to be a college baseball coach and I'm willing to pay the price. What was the origin story of that?
My junior college coach, he was the one that made me realize this is more than a game. It's the relationships that are built. It's not just, and I think that's something that's unique about our sport is the relationships that you build with people. And I just don't think with other sports, you kind of get that same relationship that you get. And I listened to Chris Lemonis at the coaching convention this past, what was it, the 6th through the 9th, 8th through the 11th, whatever it was. And he said, I want to get wedding dates over. I cared more about wedding dates than wins at this point in his career. And that to me was a big thing for me, because it's like I said, me and my junior college coach, we had such a good relationship, and he made me realize that I can impact people's lives, impact college kids' lives daily, because these college athletes, they have it a lot tougher than people think. It's all golden.
Yeah, they're busy. Yeah. Hey, let me ask you this one other follow-up question. So it looks like you guys have a really good program in Amsterdam, and it sounds like people really trust you guys. Really cool. Like you had mentioned how that situation's been really good for you. I read that you kind of started out, and then next thing you know, you're the third base coach. And I mean, it's been a place where you've really gotten to grow into different roles as a coach. But tell me why the Amsterdam program that you and your uncle are running has done well. Like what's the separator for you guys?
For us, it starts with our coaching staff. And Keith Griffin, he's been coaching there for 12, 13 summers. He comes up every single summer, and the people there love him. Everyone, if you see him out at a restaurant, you can't sit there without talking to someone. And he was a junior college coach. I believe he won 2 national championships while he was there. And he's just a great, great baseball mind. And then the relationships he has with, this past summer, we had, I'm just going to list off a few schools. We had Mississippi State, Wake Forest, Washington State. We had a couple guys, VCU we've had in the past. And just getting kids from being able to have that connection with schools like those, that's really helped us be successful.
That's awesome. Really cool. DT, go ahead.
Hey, Runes. Thanks for having us on. David Tillotson here. I grew up, I'm a volunteer assistant coach at the University of Southern California. Grew up in Oak Harbor, Washington, little naval town about an hour and a half, 2 hours north of Seattle. Got done playing at Centralia College, which is a junior college up in the NWACS up in Washington as well, and ended up transferring to UW, where I was a student manager. Similar situation. Wouldn't say the playing career was all that stellar, but had a super big passion for the game, wanted to stay in it. And when I got to UW, I was kind of lost not having the game there. So met with Coach Meggs, Donegal Fergus, Jason Kelly, and Tanner Swanson there. and kind of like found my way back into the game on that side of stuff. So I was helping out with scouting reports there, video, just kind of whatever needed to be done. Was there in 2015 and 16, got done at UW and was still kind of not really sure what I wanted to do after that. Like I knew I wanted to be with baseball. I had majored in biology, so it was kind of not necessarily lining up with those two things. So I ended up joining Teach for America, which took me down to Cleveland, Mississippi. And I ended up teaching high school science down there for 3 years, coaching baseball down there. Was kind of done with Mississippi and just kind of like the differences that I grew up on the West Coast and was kind of ready to get back out to it. So I reached out to Donegal Fergus, who had moved from the University of Washington down to Santa Barbara, and talked to him about coming out there to be a GA or kind of find my way back into the college game. And so I ended up going out to Santa Barbara in the summer of 2019. I was there for the COVID season and then last year as well. And then those guys there, primarily Dylan Jones, who's the pitching coach there, he helped me get a gig with the Corvallis Knights in the West Coast League, which is the summer league kind of in the Northwest. And coached this summer up there, had a great season, ended up like 50-14, won the league title up there. And then towards the end of that summer, I was trying to figure out what was next. I was ready to get away from the director of analytics job, which I had done at UCSB, and kind of move on to some sort of an on-field coaching position. And again, the connections that I had made kind of in my various stops led me to USC. Coach Checketts had worked with Coach Gill back in their time at Oregon. And so he was a big reference for me getting here. Coach Fontino had actually moved on from UCSB. He had gotten one of the paid coaching jobs here, and his and my relationship really helped out as well. He was really pulling for me to come here based off the previous work experience we had. And so one thing led to another. Coach Gill called me up and offered me the volunteer job, and it was a no-brainer for me, and that's how I got here.
Oh, gosh, that is so amazing, DT. When you were describing your experience at UW, I forgot about Tanner Swanson being there, and Ferg and JK, and I mean, gosh dang, what a staff. Let me ask you this. So you were there right before the Omaha run. Did you feel like you could see the Omaha run coming? I mean, I know it was kind of, it was all on the road. Like, did you feel like you could see that building, or what was that like those 2 years at UW?
Yeah, the 2016, we ended up going to Vanderbilt. We actually bounced Vandy from their own regional that year. Santa Barbara, coincidentally, ended up besting us. They had the walk-off Grand Slam at Louisville in the Supers that year, and they were actually in Omaha in 2016. So it was kind of a small world, ending up circling back and getting to work for Checketts later on. But yeah, I mean, that staff, the young guys that were on that team ended up having a great 2018. It was cool for me. Mississippi, the high school season and high school year gets done pretty early. So we were actually done before the regionals kicked off. And in 18, UW got to go to the Coastal Carolina Regional, which was about a 10, 12-hour drive from me in Mississippi. And so I actually got to go out to that regional, watch them win in Coastal. One of my buddies that I had met in Mississippi was on his way back to Washington, so we road tripped through Fullerton. I got to go to the Supers that year.
No
and then
way.
my dad grew up in Nebraska, so I was actually able to go stay with family and watch him in Omaha as well. So still got to be a part of it, even though I missed it by a couple of years, which was a really cool experience.
Oh my gosh, and that Super Regional in Fullerton was just nuts. I mean, like one of the best college baseball games I've ever seen. Oh my gosh, that is amazing. By the way, Santa Barbara's analytics department has their own podcast, which I listened to last week. Like, Santa Barbara's analytics team is not joking around. Like, these guys are getting after it. Hey, one other follow-up, DT. Teach for America, is that like a program where they're just like covering your expenses and you're going to kind of impoverished areas, or is it like you're an employee of their operation?
So Teach for America doesn't actually employ you. They do some things with loan forbearance and setting aside money that you can use to put towards master's degrees or for further your education as well. But what they really do is they try and find areas that need teachers, whether it be inner city, whether it be super rural, like I was in Mississippi. And they take people that don't necessarily major in the education profession. So myself being a biology major, I go down there and I teach high school biology. And so they give you like this rush certification. You get to teach summer school, train for like 6 weeks. You have to pass like the test to become a teacher down there. And then from there, they just kind of turn you loose into the classroom, and they do a good job it's like a 2-year commitment. So you have to have like weekly or biweekly check-ins with somebody to let them know how you're doing, and kind of they're paying attention to make sure that you're doing your job, or they give you professional development throughout those 2 years as well to make sure that you're still performing the way a teacher should perform in the classroom, even though that wasn't necessarily what you set out to be. And so it was a great experience for me. I ended up really kind of falling in love with the baseball culture. I got placed at a great school. I was telling you about Delta State there. Cleveland has a really good baseball tradition. And so for me, it was kind of a great situation to end up at.
That's awesome. Yeah, Mississippi State is an awesome, awesome baseball state, no question. So good stuff. Andrew, go ahead.
Awesome. Runes, thanks for having us on. My name's Andrew Llewellyn. I'm a volunteer assistant at Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond, Virginia. We are in the Atlantic 10 as well. And I'm from Richmond originally, and I went down to Wingate University and played 4 years there, and then came back to VCU to get my master's. But I initially started coaching at Randolph-Macon, was there for about a month, and then our head coach at VCU called me in one day when I was in class, and he was like, "Hey, we need some help around here. I can give you some money for your basically your master's. Do you want to come work for us?" And I was like, "Of course." Very kind of low level position as essentially a graduate manager comparatively to where I'm at now. And I basically took it as betting on myself to be able to kind of move up in that role wherever he kind of saw fit. And then within about 4 months, I was the director of ops, and then carried that on through the end of the fall, into the COVID spring. And then he kept me on all summer and into that next fall. And then our volunteer left. I think actually Kyle knows Tutwiler was at William & Mary, I think, when you were there. So he left and took a different job. So I got promoted to the volunteer role, and that's what I've been. So I did that last spring, had this fall, and now looking forward to a second full spring in that role.
Love it. So, Andrew, on your Twitter feed, so VCU, you guys had the longest winning streak in the country last year. It was 16 games. Is that right?
So we had, I think Fairfield had us on longest overall.
Oh, right. That's right.
We won 22 in a row at the end of the year. We started off conference play 1-3, and at G-Dub, and it was bad. Like, we were like, do we suck? Like, we were like genuinely concerned. Like, we were had to do some serious self-reflecting as a staff on a lot of stuff, and kind of let the guys kind of take control over that. And we won 22 games in a row, and ended up, our first loss was to Mississippi State in Starkville in front of 17,000 people in a regional. And so that was it was a run. But currently, I'm knocking on wood over here, we have the longest active home winning streak in the NCAA at 16 games. So yeah, we haven't lost at the diamond in 16 games.
Awesome. So when you guys played Mississippi State last year in the regionals, was that the first game Friday night, or you had won a game and now you're playing them Saturday night?
So yeah, we were both 1-0. We opened up with Campbell, and we played them, and we both ran our aces out there, and I think it ended up being like 16-7. We won that game, and then we got Mississippi State 7 p.m. on a Saturday or Friday, whichever day it was, and the place was packed. Dak Prescott's there, sitting in the outfield in a booth. Like, it was nuts. Like, by far the most impressive atmosphere or environment that like I've ever been able to be a part of. And that was kind of our message to the team, was that like the whole thing you prepare for each year is you're going to play in that environment in front of 17,000 people. Like, that's where you want to be. Like, that's the moment you practice all year for and play all year for. And so we got to that moment. Unfortunately, didn't play too well in it, but it was really cool experience for those guys.
Yeah, that's not exactly a comfortable environment. That's great. Nope. Hey, last one, Andrew, and then we'll keep working around. So on your Twitter, your background, it looks like you're coming to home plate and your teammates are ready to celebrate. Is that a walk-off hit that you had in college?
It is.
Tell me about it.
My only walk-off home run in college was a nice cut 9-iron to right field with 30-mile-an-hour winds blowing out.
That's right.
It was probably the worst hit home run I had, but it was against Columbus State my sophomore year. They ended up making a World Series that year, and we had beat them. We lost, I think, the first game, and we were struggling. It's early in the year. We hadn't been playing all that great, and it was a pop up to right, and the wind pushed it out, and I thought the guy caught it. Like there's in the video, you see the guy the right fielder goes up, and like he comes down, and then his shoulders kind of slouch, and you see the ball rolling, and then everybody went nuts. But no, that's what that picture's from. It's from my one and only walk off hit.
Oh, good for you. That's awesome. Very cool. All right, Coach Bell, coming back to you. So here's round two, boys. I want you to pick an area of the game that you're most passionate about. You know, infield play, catching, hitting, base running, team offense, pitching. You can go, hey, recruiting. You could pick recruiting if you wanted. Program building. I don't care what you pick. The area that's closest to your heart. And I want you to give me your core beliefs, the things that are really just in your soul. 3 sentences or less. So give me your core beliefs in your favorite area of the game. 3 sentences or less. Coach Bell, kick us off.
Yeah, I'll go hitting. I'm fortunate to work with Brian Green, one of the best, if not the best hitting coaches in the country, and learned a lot from him. But I think, especially in college, number one would be have a 2-strike approach. I think everything starts with that. If you're able to have a 2-strike approach, you're gonna have success. You know, I think only 15 teams in college baseball fielded 980 or above last year out of 300, and 29 out of 30 fielded 980 in the major league. So it's college baseball. It's a different game. Number two would be selectively aggressive early in the count. I think that also comes from having a 2-striker approach. You're able to look to do damage, hunt a pitch, hunt a location early in the count. You're not afraid to get to 2 strikes. And then number 3 would be dominate the outer half of the plate. Again, in college baseball, that's where the game's played. Not enough guys can consistently pitch in, and most of the time, if they do, they're just shown it once to go back away. So, have a 2-strike approach, dominate the outer half of the plate, and be selectively aggressive early in the count.
Gosh, that is really good. Hey, 2-strike approach, Coach Bell. Is it physical adjustments like the old school choke up, spread out, that type of stuff, get on the plate? Is it more mental stuff? What when you think about 2-strike approach, or maybe it's a combination of both, what's it boiled down to for you, 2-strike approach?
I think it's a combination of both. You know, some guys need to choke up and get wide, and some guys are already really simplistic in what they do, and it's more of just mentally backing the ball up when you get to 2 strikes. But you know, we don't tell our guys to do one way, or we just try to guide them based on what they need individually. So yeah, we don't force our guys to do one thing or another. We just spend all fall and early spring working to find what each individual guy needs, and usually it's a combination of both mental and physical adjustments.
Gotcha. And then a final follow-up on this part. So dominate the outer half. Is that, do you feel like with your younger hitters that are coming in, is it more just getting them to commit that if they see a fastball on the, in the outer third, that they've got to just be committed to be aggressive to that pitch, whereas in high school maybe they're just looking for something center cut? Or is it something different than that?
Yeah, that's something that we really battle with our younger hitters is a lot of fastball takes on the outer half, and you can usually look at that stat after a game, and if you have a high number of fastball takes, that usually means you're looking middle in, and that's not where pitchers are throwing them more often than not. So just being aggressive on the outer half and reacting in and forcing that pitcher to switch sides of the plate, and that's something that as our hitters mature and get better at, they really start to hone in on that and have a lot of success.
Love it. What's Jerry Weinstein say? It's like hunting for polar bears in Miami. It's not great. So
look for what you're going to get.
That's right. Kyle, go ahead.
Okay. With the infield academy and just being in charge of the infielders at Mason, I'm going to choose infield. And
Yes.
I have four key pillars that I think build elite infielders. One is being an athlete. This is having rhythm and tempo throughout our fielding progression, having active feet, some measurables like lateral quickness and like arm velocity. 2 would be on-field awareness. This is things like having high baseball IQ, just knowing number of outs, speed of runner, what shifts we're playing, the weather on that given day. 3 would be having consistent patterns. This is like repeating our proper footwork patterns, our hand movements, our throwing progression, and just practicing all different types of hops and fielding lanes so we can prepare for like all in-game possibilities. And then 4 is going to be mechanics. A lot of people practice their hitting mechanics off a tee, but I've found that very few people practice elite level fielding mechanics. Now, I always say that I put beat athlete number 1 and mechanics last for a reason, because at the end of the day, if you're an athlete and you make plays, you're never going to find yourself getting in trouble. So those are the 4 things that we like to talk about.
Love it. Hey, Kyle, let me ask you this, because you're coaching what I would classify as mostly cold weather kids, or, you're up in that, mid-Atlantic Northeast. So if I was working with you, and I don't, because I grew up in the suburban Philly, and I would say my baseball IQ when I got to college was pretty low. Like I went from
Mhm.
football to basketball to baseball and then rinse and repeat. How do you, again, because you're not coaching these California, Florida, Arizona kids where the game just goes really slow for them. It's like hardwired in there. How do you help me increase baseball IQ? What are some things you can do to help me slow the game down?
Yeah, I think it's a classic. Building confidence with more repetitions and kind of putting them in scenarios where we try to speed them up so that they get slowed down in the game, whether that means doing a lot of stuff on the clock. We use a stopwatch a lot to try to speed them up. And then like to use, especially as we get closer to the spring and it is snowing here and there's snow on the ground in Virginia, using our team room to try to do as much video as possible, kind of talk through some of our scouting reports and give them more visuals. I found that athletes in general seem to be pretty visual learners. So giving them some stuff on the screen all in a room while there's snow outside, kind of talking about where we're going to be playing so that they can kind of see what's going on.
Love it. Oh, that's really good. Really good. Robbie, go ahead.
So I'm here. I work with our catchers. So that's kind of what I'm going to dive into. My big thing with our catchers is two things. One is the ability to steal a strike. I believe that the pitch, either way it goes, it can change a game, an inning. It can change your whole season. Last year at Kentucky, I think one pitch kind of did affect our whole season. And then number two I'm going to talk about is just eliminating the free bases. I forget who it was. I think it was 643 Charts. They just put out a stat with the win percentage of games last year when the team had more free bases than the other team, and their win percentage was like 700, 800, 900. And I mean, the more we can eliminate those free bases, I think the better chance that that's going to help our team win.
Love it. Hey, Robbie, with the when you think about catchers between summer ball and what you've experienced at Kentucky, is there one guy that stands out, or one guy when you're molding this next group of catchers? Is there one guy that really jumps out at you? Hey, it could be a big leaguer too, that you think about. Man, that's kind of like that. That's what I'm going for. That's what I want.
I mean, the easy answer is Yadier Molina.
Sure.
You know what I mean? The ability he has to steal strikes, and his catch and throw game is as good as anyone. Rio Muto.
Yep.
I would say probably them too.
Yeah, both those guys too, like their presence and yeah,
Mhm.
that type of stuff. Hey, let me ask you a non-catching question. So spending 3 years in it with an SEC program, all the Power 5 programs are like this, but the SEC, man, it's just like the margins are so thin, the pressure is so enormous. How would you describe that to someone that's not familiar with, what it's like trying to compete in the SEC and baseball's like?
Kind of just off of what he just said is just this kind of slowing the game down and taking it pitch by pitch. And like you said, in practice at Kentucky, what they would do was on the clock and trying to speed guys up. And at the end of the day, it's just the guys who can slow the game down the best. Just take it, be where your feet are. That was a quote we used all the time at Kentucky. Mm-hmm. Just be where your feet are, be in the moment. Be an athlete.
Yep. Yeah, there's great baseball all across the country, but when you incorporate, it's like what Andrew was saying, like those gosh, like the SEC teams are outdrawing the Rays, for God's sakes. I mean, it's amazing. No offense to the Rays, but
going down to Starkville last year, that was an experience like none other. It was unreal.
Yeah,
that weekend there.
So great. DT, go ahead.
I'm going to continue on the catching train. I work with the catchers here at SC, so that one's kind of near and dear to my heart. I think that number one, guys need to be able to block and throw out of a receiving stance. You're going to receive 80 to 85% of the balls that don't get put in play, rather than having to block the remaining percentage of balls, or maybe have to throw on those as well. So receiving is king for me. Having a good pitcher-catcher relationship, so kind of managing the staff. You've got about 20 guys on staff that you need to have good relationships with. You need to know what makes them tick, know how to get them back to throwing strikes if they're out of the zone or they get rattled. So it's really important that all of our catchers have good relationships with those guys. And then I think the last thing is that they're just an extension of the coaching staff. They're the one player that's looking out on the field rather than towards home plate. They can kind of see the game from a different lens than the coaches or any of the other position players as well. So making sure that they're relaying that information to us if it's something they see, or even just directing traffic on the field as well is big.
Love it. Hey, let me ask you this, DT, as a follow-up on catching. It's fascinating to me. It feels like it's become just like pitching, where you've got all these stances and all these advancements in catching, but it's almost where my old school coaching mind goes is, hey, having 6 average pitches is not nearly as good as having 2 or 3 that you can really command. And I worry about that for catchers. There's like a million variations of stance, but if you're below average at all of them, you don't have a good stance. So the question I'm trying to get to is, when you bring in a new catcher, a freshman catcher to a college program, how do you help a catcher settle on the right stance? Which knees down, those types of things. What's that process look like?
Well, when I first got here this fall, these guys hadn't had necessarily a catching coach specifically. Coach Gill had kind of managed the catchers, and he wasn't traditionally a one knee guy. So it was kind of a completely new thing for these guys to hear, like, yeah, we're going to go one knee down. We're going to work on that. And we talked through the different situations, depending on right or left-handed batter, what the type of runners on base are, what those situations are. And then really the fall was more of an experimental period for these guys. Like, I wanted them doing all of it, figuring out what they liked, what they didn't like, because at the end of the day, they need to have belief in what they're doing to go out there and really put it on the line and do a good job at it. And I looked at it more from a lens of, how do I get these guys to be able to receive in the stance primarily? And then how do we go about blocking in that stance as well? So in the event there's runners on, or it's a 2-strike or whatever it is, that task still gets accomplished. And then how can we throw out of that as well? And I think that the 3 guys that I work with here have done a great job at being open-minded and really communicating back and forth with me, like, this is what I feel, or maybe one guy feels something different. Because no 2 guys even have the same right knee down stance or the same left knee down stance. Like, there's fine-tuned ways to kind of tweak that to make it more comfortable based on flexibility and strength and those things. And so that's kind of how I've gone about teaching the one knee down stances. It's more discussion based. Feel it out, put yourself into some drills, do it in a scrimmage environment or whatever, and then we can adjust from there and go back to things that maybe are more comfortable, or the one that you think you're going to be most successful with from there.
Yeah, makes sense. Perfect. Andrew, go ahead.
So my topic's kind of a little different than the on-field stuff, but it's kind of relevant to our position, and it's kind of how I go about and how we all can go about kind of building out our camps, youth camps and the summer camp, prospect camps and all of that.
Yeah, I love it.
The biggest thing, it starts with, at least for us, you got to win, because that helps you a whole lot. When the program does really well, that drives camp numbers for sure. But 2, you have to continuously put out a very good product. Like, being able to put a product out that parents know, if it's a 6-year-old or a 16-year-old that's coming to a prospect camp, they know that they're going to get attention, they're going to be communicated with, and what they receive, whether it's a week-long, a 2-day event, a 1-day indoor showcase, that they know that their money being spent is.
Another big piece of that is kind of building out your database as to getting names from the masses, essentially, but also leaning on your recruiting guys on the staff. Our Coach Witten and Coach Volts do a phenomenal job of sending me guys that reach out to them to invite to camp, but also allowing us to get legitimate dudes that we could commit to our camps. And so it makes their jobs easier, getting 10 guys that they might have saw once over the summer in the circuit, getting them on campus so we can show them what VCU is about, what the university looks like, how our facilities kind of line up with everything. And then also it allows them to see guys that end up being future Rams for us. And I think it's a huge aspect of our position, because it's how we make our money. And it's how we are able to impact the program directly in a very positive way if we go about it the right way.
That's great. Do you guys use your players as coaches for camps, Andrew, or do you use local coaches, or a combination of the 2?
So it depends. During the summer is when we run our youth camps. And for that, most of my guys are not around. They're off playing summer ball. And so the ones that are on campus still, I will have them work. But I use Randolph-Macon players. They come out. They're great. It's right there. We've got a really good relationship with their coach, and he's fantastic. And kids love getting free lunch and getting paid a little bit to be on a baseball field for a few hours in the summer. And they do a really good job. He sends me his good guys, and they work really hard. And then for our prospect camps, we have our players help out. in the sense that we want them to be able to interact with
Yeah.
kids. You've got juniors and seniors in high school that are on campus going to be able to ask these guys questions because they're only a year apart maybe. And so it's a good kind of added benefit for them to be able to interact. And then we also hire out coaches. Depends on what the recruiting calendar looks like, if we bring in other D1s, if it's D3s and JUCOs for the prospect camps. But other than that, it's typically our players or local players, depending on if it's prospect camp or youth camps, and then our entire staff. They do.
Yeah, that's great.
My staff's fantastic about helping me, one, because this summer was my first time ever doing it. And Coach Stifler was great with just kind of showing me the right direction, but also giving me the reins to mess up if I needed to, but also correct me so we could kind of keep everything on track. And we had a really good summer and fall with that. And they really work hard to get those things off the ground and running and executing when we do get them on campus.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love it. Coach Bell, I'm coming back to you. So, boys, here's the next question. So, I think as assistant coaches, you're kind of building your playbook for someday when you're a head coach. And there's a lot of things that you're going to take from the programs that you're part of now, the programs that you played in. But there's also stuff you're going to steal from opponents. And that's what I'm looking for is teams that you've coached against, played against, could be any level, I don't care, where you love the way they do X. I'll give you a couple examples. We used to play Cal State Fullerton when I was at ASU. And one of the things that they did that was unique was 0-2 count. Their pitchers would go down and in on your right-handed hitters. And, most teams are going 18 inches off away. And our hitters hated it. And I was like, dang, I'd love to coach a pitching staff that's willing to do that. Another one I was thinking about, when Coach Robes, the late Coach Robes, was running Louisiana Lafayette and Matt Deggs was his assistant, that offense, was all these 5'10", 190-pound right-handed hitters that hit doubles and stole bases and bunted for a hit, just like this chaotic offense. I love that. So anyway, that's what I'm looking for, starting with you, Coach Bell, an aspect of an opponent that you really like that you might take with you someday.
Yeah, I'll go back to my time at New Mexico State, and we had some pretty intense battles with Sacramento State, and that was pitching coach Jake Angier at the time. It didn't matter if it was their ace throwing 95 or the last guy out of the bullpen throwing 85. They could all dot a fastball in the outer half, and it was really clear to me that it was something that they had to do in the fall and prove to him to be able to pitch on that pitching staff. It was something that he said, you can't pitch here unless you can do this, and they could all dot a fastball in the outer half. And unfortunately for us here, now he's at Oregon and we still have to deal with him in the Pac-12. But it's really, really fun to watch their pitching staff go about their business at the time at Sacramento State.
That's great. Good pull. Kyle, go ahead. What are you going with?
Being an infield guy, I really respect in and out or like fungos in between batting practice. I think it says a lot kind of right before the game started. You're normally about 10, 15 minutes out. And back in, I think, 2017, I had two teams I played that I liked their in and out. One was Yale. Tucker Frawley was there as a coach at the time. And it had a really upbeat, high pace, a lot of tempo, fungos and in and out, which was just being in the dugout, watching that. They looked like they were locked and loaded. Number two, we opened up 2017 at University of Florida. And I remember showing up and they were in shorts, wearing snapback hats and taking fungos in between BP. And I was just like, these guys just have a confidence and swagger about them that looks like they're ready to go on opening weekend. And they did. So
look at you, Kyle, going Yale and Florida. That is outstanding. Well done. Those are two good ones. Really good. Robbie, go ahead. What are you going with?
For me, it's Vanderbilt. When we played there, and we played them Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Thursday night after batting practice, I looked out and Jack Leiter was carrying the turtle off the field, and that to me was crazy. Us managers, we were the ones pulling the turtle off after BP, and just the level of discipline and accountability that they were held to at that school. And I think it's a direct correlation to their success. They're all pulling for each other after they strike out, hit a double. They're pointing to the guy walking up to the plate next, and you got my back. Come on, let's go. And I think it all starts with that level of discipline that Coach Corbin runs there.
Yeah, gosh, that's a really good example. Goodness gracious, man, I can picture it. Very good. DT, what are you going with?
I'm going to go with UC Irvine. Got to face off against those guys 4 times last year in the Big West with UC Santa Barbara. And just the approach that their hitters had throughout that series, like they were not wavering from what they were going to do. We ended up squeaking out Friday night, and then they won the final 3 games of that set. But just their offensive approach, they stuck to it the whole weekend. Like I had behind, whatever it was. And they were going against a couple really good arms in the front end of our rotation with Michael McGreevy and Rodney Boone. And those guys just were calm, cool, and collected, and ended up, weathering the storm and then finding ways to win games late.
Yeah, they hit 300 as a team last year. I just wrote them up. I mean, it's crazy to think about that. So, Andrew, go ahead.
Mine's got to be Mississippi State. I think that's the first big experience I've had outside of VCU baseball, seeing the kind of attention to detail and the discipline level it takes to succeed, one in the SEC, but also to win a national championship, playing them for 9 innings. I think we pulled it to a 3-run game, and then it was 8 runs again very quickly. Like, they never let off the gas, and it's just that kind of attention to detail is how you end up winning a national championship. And it was interesting to see firsthand, because that's who we compete against in the regionals and the level we kind of have to get to be able to play against teams of that caliber. But it was very cool to see that. Unfortunately, we didn't take one from them, but it was neat to see them be able to perform at that high of a level and continue that success and get a national championship this year.
Yeah, love it. What an experience, too. That's great. Coach Bell, coming back to you. All right, so you guys are going for an interview next summer, and I'm the one running the search. I'm going to make 3 phone calls on your behalf to learn more about you. Who are my 3 calls? Who do you want me to call? Coach Bell, you kick us off.
I'll start with our head coach here at Washington State, Brian Green. That's an easy one for me. He's my mentor. I've been with him for 6 years now. And then number 2, I'll go Anthony Claggett, our pitching coach. Pitched for the Yankees and the Pirates, does a great job. And then number 3 will be our recruiting coordinator, Terry Davis. And I take pride in the fact that all 3 are from my staff here. And I played for this coaching staff. I've coached with this coaching staff for 4 years now, and we've all been together for 6 years. So I take pride in the fact that all 3 come from our coaching staff here.
Love it. Kyle, who are my 3 calls? Who am I calling?
So I'll take the easy way out and say anybody from George Mason coaching staff. They're the only people that have watched me coach at a collegiate level at this point. But I guess you could say Sean Camp, the associate head coach who brought me on board. Number 2 would be Mike Colangelo. Coach Colangelo runs the Stars organization, and he kind of watched me grow up as a player in this area and then helped me early on in my coaching career as I was coaching for the organization. Then 3, I may say my dad, Mark Wright. He coaches in the area and is well respected, but I don't think you can have your dad write a recommendation for you. I'll say Nate Trotsky came out this way, and I helped him run an infield camp, and I think he could speak on my ability to run infield camps. And we've connected and stayed connected along the process.
That's awesome. His son is the freshman at Oregon State. Is that right? Does that ring a bell? Yep.
Not his son. I believe it's his nephew.
Okay,
yes.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Cool. Robbie, what are you going with?
So my first one's got to be Coach Minch at Kentucky. Mm-hmm. He's really taken care of me and with my time there. My second one's going to be Coach Griffin, Keith Griffin. He coached with him these past 3 summers. I don't know if I can say Coach Wags yet, being I've only been here for 3 weeks. So I'm going to say my junior. So I'm going to say my junior college coach. He's now the pitching coach at Villanova, Jabin Weaver.
Oh, cool. So your junior college coach that you really hit it off with is at Villanova now. That's awesome.
Yep.
Really cool. DT, go for
it. First off, I'll probably go with Matt Fontino. Like I was explaining earlier, he was instrumental in me even getting the opportunity to come down to SC. So I definitely would throw a shout out for him to be up there at the top of the list. Donegal Fergus, who was at UW with me, was instrumental in me getting from Mississippi back out to California with UCSB. He would definitely be up there on the list. And then I think I would go with Checketts. Me and Checketts had a lot of good talks last year. Our offices were kind of right next to each other. So any late nights that I spent there that he was around, or early mornings when I would get in there and he would have beat me to the field. We had a bunch of good talks, and he kind of can speak to my work ethic and just kind of how much I'm around the game. So I would probably go with those 3.
Very cool. Andrew, go ahead.
My first one would be Sean Stifler, my head coach now. He gave me my first opportunity to get into coaching, not really knowing much about me other than I was a high school kid that couldn't hit, that they didn't recruit from their backyard when I was coming through high school. My second one would be Jeff Gregory, my head coach at Wingate University. Got an extremely strong relationship with him, playing for him, working with him as a catcher and everything for 4 years, and just growing up as a kid, kind of growing up into a man, going from 18 to 22 years old, and him being there for a lot of that. He's I've got a very good relationship with him. And then kind of the person that started that for me outside of my father, obviously, would be Tim Lowry. He's the first person I ever took like hitting lessons with or anything like that. Growing up with both his sons are older than me, and just I've always been great with me. We worked with the Canes, working together when I was playing there and coaching with them, and so I think that would be my three.
Oh gosh, just give me an excuse to call Coach Lowry, one of my favorite people in all of baseball. He's the best. So, very good. All right, boys.
Texted me before.
Oh, good.
He texted me before this, said to make sure I told you hello.
Oh, he's the best. Gosh, Coach Lowry is amazing. What a good human. Oh, that's awesome. Made my night. All right, boys. Last one. Player to watch in 2022. Now, Robbie, you've been there 3 weeks, so, you could, hey, give me a Manhattan Jasper if you want. You go wherever you guys want with this. Doesn't have to be your best player. Could be a player in your position group. Could be, a guy that made a big jump, whatever. There is no right or wrong answer here. I just love hearing about players. So, Coach Bell, kick us off. Give me a player to watch in 2022.
I'll go with fifth-year senior Colin Montez, left-handed hitting outfielder. He's been here for 2 different coaching staffs. He's been here a long time, and he's knocking on the door of pro ball. He has all the tools, and for a program that's knocking on the door of relevance again, he's very hungry to get us back there. And if we achieve our goals this year and moving forward, it's going to be because of guys like him. So Colin Montez, guy to look out for. Very
good. Kyle?
I'm going to go with Danny Hosley. He was the MEAC Player of the Year last year, and he's a grad transfer. We're very fortunate to have him, and he goes about everything the right way, and then just has a tool set that is very comparable, honestly, to like a Nolan Arenado. So he's going to be really good this spring.
He was at Norfolk last year, right?
He was at Norfolk State, yep. And he was a pitcher and a hitter. I want to say he hit like 390 with like a 2.2 ERA. So yeah,
is he going to do two-way for you guys or just play a position?
We're gonna start him out as a two-way. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Yeah, love it. Very cool. Robbie, go ahead. Tough one for you, Robbie.
My Jasper to look out for this season. He's Pete DeRocher. He's coming off he tore his meniscus last year. Actually, he took a swing, and they thought he fouled the ball off his knee, and he actually tore his meniscus. Taking a swing is really, really strange. But he came back this fall fully recovered, and when he came back, his batting practice, the ball was coming off his bat a little different, and I think he's destined for a big year.
Pete DeRocher, that's what you said, right?
Uh-huh.
What position?
He's a right fielder.
Love it. Okay, cool. DT, go ahead.
I'm going to go with Matt Keating. He's a sophomore junior college transfer out of Nebraska. He's a two-way guy for us. He'll probably end up playing corner infield and then potentially starting, potentially closing. We don't really know yet how the arm will play. But he had some ridiculous power numbers in junior college and continued that in the fall. And then he also has a power right-handed arm, running it up to 94, 95. He's got a really good curveball. So he's definitely going to be a dynamic part of what we're trying to do this year. I'm excited to see what he does.
Yeah, I can't wait to see him. He's really intriguing. That's a great pull. Andrew, go ahead.
Tyler Locklear. He's our reigning All-American third baseman. Somehow in his third year was the Rookie of the Year in the A-10 last year with the COVID stuff going on and everything. But he was Conference Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, consensus All-American. Kid just goes about his business the right way. And if he has even remotely close to the success he had last year, it's going to be a pretty good day on day one of the draft. So,
did you say left-handed hitter or right-handed hitter?
He's right-handed. Right-handed.
And he plays third base for you guys. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
And really physical too, if I recall, right?
Yes, he's big. He's a big kid. I mean, 6'3", 220, and we let him get off the bus first.
As you should.
Sure.
Well done. Oh gosh, gentlemen, this was awesome. I can't believe we've been on the phone for 59 minutes. It just absolutely is a blur. Every week it's been like this. So fun. One of the things I'm going to do, boys, when we hang up is I'm going to put some books that I've been reading, some podcasts that I really like. I just think we're all in coaching. We're all on this leadership journey. We're all leaning into stuff, and I'm going to share some of the stuff that I've really enjoyed, and I'd love for you to do the same. And again, I hope this is the first of many conversations. I look forward to staying in touch with you guys during the course of the season too. But great job. For the listeners, really appreciate it. That's episode 16 in the books. We'll be back here final episode of year 1 of Fourth Coach Conversations will be next Sunday, and then we're going to take a break as everybody locks into the season. Really special thanks to our friends at Netting Pros who have made this all possible. Could not thank them enough. I could not do this without their support, and they are tremendous. We encourage everyone to anything you need, Netting Pros is where you want to be. So that is it. Everybody have a great week. We will catch you next Sunday night for the last episode, and we will go from there. Take care, everybody.